For 10 years now, the Chinese film industry has been steadily gaining weight, demonstrating the strongest growth in box office receipts. And one of its main drivers has been actor Jackie Wu, who has slowly, imperceptibly grown into a global superstar. Suffice it to say that he starred in 3 of the 5 highest-grossing Chinese films of all time, and the total box office of his projects of the last 5 years exceed the insane figure of $5.5 billion American dollars. But the most interesting thing about all of this is that his secret lies not in his acting talents, but in his ability to pick great projects and get starring roles in them. For example, it was clear that the sci-fi disaster movie Wandering Earth, based on the novel of the same name by Da-Shan, will be a box office hit, and so it was. The sequel in China, which is thoroughly hooked on sci-fi, was awaited almost like Avatar, and the wait was worth it. First part took place in 2075, but the second movie goes back in time to 2044, when the young Liu Peiqiang is just preparing to become an astronaut and meets his future wife. It is already known that within the next 100 years the Earth will face a catastrophe, and governments of all countries choose between 2 initiatives. On the one hand, you can throw forces on the digitalization of consciousness to move people into a virtual world. On the other hand, you can build giant engines that will move the planet out of its orbit and eventually take it outside the solar system. Despite opposition from the adherents of the digital paradise, the Chinese authorities work hard to build the first engine, but in 2044 they will have to survive a powerful terrorist attack. Years later, another dangerous incident occurs. The moon goes out of its orbit and heads straight for Earth, threatening to destroy it. As you can see, The Wandering Earth 2 is essentially 2 movies, with the first one taking place in 2044 and the second one in 2058. But that's not all. The movie is split into even smaller segments because of the main characters. Jackie Wu has his own storyline in each of these time periods, but there is also a plot connected with the scientist Tu Hongyu, played by Andy Lau. Tu suffered a terrible tragedy. His wife and daughter were killed in a car accident. His wife could not be saved, but the scientist managed to digitize his daughter's consciousness, hoping that she will live forever. Now the program of the virtual world is closed and the internet is down too, so Tu lives knowing that his daughter is close, but inaccessible. He makes a fatal mistake, but then goes for a heroic act in the name of humanity. A Hollywood movie with such an unconventional structure would have been killed at the script stage, but the Chinese didn't care about these conventions and created another blockbuster, which in some places even surpasses the first part and turns out to be one of the most spectacular sci-fi movies of recent years. It's uneven and disjointed, but it's also very watchable, very humane, and very precise on its message right now, in 2023. The key difference between Chinese sci-fi and films of this genre from other countries is its surprising generosity. If in Hollywood such a movie would tell about how some helpless people almost died, but then the Americans came and saved everyone, the authors of Wandering Earth 2 take a course on the friendship and co-working. Heroes in this movie speak a good dozen languages, the central roles in the plot are occupied by representatives of different countries, the key scenes are always solved through unity. The acts of bravery here are performed literally by the whole world, and in the spirit-lifting finale, the authors put a special emphasis on the message that you can win only together, shoulder to shoulder. Interesting that compared to the first part, Wandering Earth 2 contains much more humor. The first hour with a perfectly rejuvenated Jackie Wu that features attack on the space program looks almost like a comedy, and in some places it's very funny. Further, understandably, the plot gets darker, and in the finale begins to stretch from the pathos, but the acceleration that Wandering Earth 2 gained in the first hour is enough to make the 3 hours that the movie lasts very exciting. Really cool special effects, which set new standards for Chinese cinema and are impressive even by the standards of big blockbuster Hollywood, also help. But the paradox of Wandering Earth 2 is that as a whole, the movie is much more than the sum of its parts. It's not just another sci-fi action movie, and it's not even just a spectacular disaster movie. It is a cinematic travel, a movie that sends you to a completely different world. A world where humanism always comes first, where all peoples listen, hear, understand, and accept each other, where you always feel a supportive shoulder nearby. This is a world you want to believe in, a world you want to live in, and you understand very well why the heroes of the film do not hesitate to give everything for its prosperity, including the most precious thing they have, their lives.